Welcome to Library Services to Recently Arrived Latino Immigrants, an event presented by REFORMA, the National Association to Promote Library and Information Services to Latinos, and the Spanish-speaking and its International Relations Committee. My name is Loida Garcia Fibo. I will moderate this event today. I am co-chair of the REFORMA International Relations Committee. The goal of this event is to provide information to help librarians and libraries across the country better serve recently arrived Latino immigrants. Now, I would like to welcome REFORMA President David Lopez with opening remarks.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this very important topic for REFORMA, coordinated by the International Relations Committee. My name is David Lopez. I am the REFORMA National President and would like to welcome all of you today. Like many of you, today's subject is close to my heart as the son of immigrants. The need for library services for immigrants and the remarkable role played by immigrant or first-generation public library employees are the reason many of us have committed ourselves to life in this field. Public libraries have always been bastions of knowledge and community, but their significance takes on new dimensions when we consider their impact on those forging a new life in a foreign land. Immigration is a journey laden with challenges, excitement, and the pursuit of a better future. Public libraries, as repositories of information and cultural hubs, stand as crucial pillars of support for newcomers. Beyond their stacks of books, these libraries offer vital services that empower immigrants, providing language resources, cultural integration programs, and a welcoming space to connect with their new communities. What adds an extra layer of depth and empathy to these services is the fact that many public library employees are themselves immigrants or children of immigrants. Their personal narratives bring a unique understanding to the challenges faced by those they serve. Picture the librarian whose family crossed borders in pursuit of opportunity, or the library assistant who grew up navigating the complexities of cultural assimilation. These dedicated individuals infuse the library experience with a richness of perspective and a genuine passion for aiding those on a similar journey. As we delve into today's discussion, let us recognize and appreciate the unsung heroes within our own library communities, the immigrant or first-generation library employees who, through their experiences, make our libraries not just repositories of information, but vibrant hubs of cultural exchange and understanding. Together, let us celebrate the significance of library services in the lives of immigrants and honor those who contribute so profoundly to this narrative of unity and shared knowledge. Thank you to the International Relations Committee for coordinating this virtual space, to our distinguished speakers, and to all of you for taking the time out of your busy days to continue the important dialogue. Felicidades to all the work that you're all doing. Adelante Reforma y adelante todos ustedes que disfruten. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David Lopez, REFORMA President. And I will continue sharing my screen now. I also would like to thank REFORMA International Relations Committee members, co-chair Elizabeth Garcia, and members Siva Perez, Salvadora Prieto, and Juan Andres Fuentes. And a big thanks to Edwin Rodarte, REFORMA Webmasters, and Celia Avila, REFORMA Public Relations. The goal of this event, as I said, is to help librarians and libraries better serve recently arrived Latino immigrants to the U.S. Some states have seen thousands of recent immigrants arriving, and REFORMA's International Relations Committee thought of presenting a program that can bring information that will help librarians serving this population. For many librarians, the newcomers are from different countries than what they have welcomed to their libraries in past years. In September of this year, the Pew Report published an update about recent Latino immigrants that I thought it was helpful. For instance, Mexican, Guatemalan, Honduran, Dominican, and Venezuelan immigrants make up a large share of the recent Hispanic immigrant population in the United States. The median age for recent Hispanic immigrants to the U.S. is 27.9, almost 30 years, though the median varies widely among origin groups. Among recent Hispanic immigrants to the U.S., Venezuelans are the most likely to have a bachelor's degree. Women represent a growing share of recent Hispanic immigrants to the U.S. and are a majority in some origin groups. Recent arrivals represent more than 25% of all Hispanic immigrants in some states. About a quarter of recent Latino immigrants to the U.S. are proficient in English, but there are notable differences by origin group. It is also important for librarians to consult the most recent data from their city, the U.S. Census updates, perhaps the local education department, or even the local health departments if the data is publicly available. I believe our speakers will mention this as well. Our speakers are experts from public libraries and immigrant serving non-governmental organizations that are serving this population. Our speakers are Jonathan Fain-Praño from DOG Accredited Integration Manager, International Rescue Committee in Los Angeles. Madeline Ildefonso, Managing Librarian, Office of Civics and Community Services, Engagement and Learning Division, Los Angeles Public Library. Freda Mosquera, Broward County Libraries Division, Lauderdale Lakes Branch Library and Educational and Cultural Center, which is a community library manager. Fred Gitner, Assistant Director of New Initiatives and Partnership Liaison at the New Americans Programs in Queens Library. And Keith Miller, Executive Director of the Communities Actively Living Independent and Free. Thank you so much to all. Welcome to Jonathan Fain-Praño. He's our first speaker, followed by Madeline Ildefonso, Freda, Fred Gitner, and closing will be Keith Miller from the same organization that we had Bridget Montgomery Wallman. Welcome, everyone. Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Lloyd, and thank you so much to REFORMA for the invitation. So I'm going to share my screen so I can get things started. I'm hoping technology is on our side today. All right. So I'm going to spend the next 10 or so minutes sharing a little bit about the landscape of how refugees, asylees, and migrants are arriving into the United States. And mind you, this is a topic that I can easily, myself and my colleagues, spend hours and hours on end talking about. So in 10 minutes, I'm going to try to capture as much as I can of what this landscape looks like, and then do a little bit of segue after that into how all this plays out locally, and how libraries can partner with organizations like IRC and other refugee resettlement agencies, as well as other nonprofit organizations in working with these populations. So for context, my name is Jonathan Fain-Praño. I'm the Integration Programs Manager for International Rescue Committee, or IRC office here in Los Angeles. And I am a Department of Justice accredited representative as well, which means I am authorized in the practice of immigration law. I'm born and raised in Quito, Ecuador. My dad's from Uruguay, so I grew up in Latin America. I was raised in Latin America, and I've spent my time on and off coming and going between the U.S. and Ecuador mostly. So I have the understanding of what it means to be an immigrant in this country. I don't have necessarily the full context or experience of what some of our patrons and clients experience, but I know the wherewithal of what it means to come from another country and start building your new life anew here in the U.S. So I'm going to share these slides, and I know this will be recorded, but for some context or history, we were founded by Albert Einstein way back in the day in the outset of World War II. So we've been around for a really long time, responding to humanitarian crises across the world, primarily, first and foremost, the crisis in Germany, Nazi Germany at the time. And since then, we've been working across the world, across various countries and in the United States, serving immigrants and refugees as they've fled crisis and found a new home. So the International Rescue Committee works in more than 50 countries across the world and in 28 US cities to help people affected by humanitarian crisis to survive, recover, and rebuild their lives. So our presence is not only based here in the US, in 28 US cities and growing. We've been expanding our footprint more and more because of the need that exists in the communities for our services, but also in 50 countries across the world. And these numbers go up and down depending on, unfortunately, when there's a crisis that comes up, we set up our presence to assist in the humanitarian and emergency response. The IRC responds to the world's worst humanitarian crisis, including the conflicts in Ukraine and the crisis in Afghanistan. We help to restore health, safety, education, economic well-being, and power to people devastated by conflict and disaster. And we are proud to fight for a world where women and girls have an equal chance to succeed. So our programs are for everybody, and we are very mission driven and focused on assisting those populations who need that. And this is true not only in our country programs, but also in our US based programs. Here's just a map so you have an idea of where we're at. Of course, all these yellow dots over here, these are all our US programs where we work at currently. And we might have an office in your state of the city for our participants on the call. So please do visit our website, rescue.org, to see if an office is nearby, and it might be an opportunity for you to partner. And then, of course, our country locations, as you can see, across the globe. So we're pretty much everywhere. And anywhere you see a black and yellow, like you see in our logo, that's where we're at. So what is the current migrant and our arrivals landscape? And this is a snapshot of what is going on right now. And I'm going to cover it very briefly. So I want to make sure that one of the things that we all understand in the practice of this field, and at least for us practitioners and service providers, is that there are differences in the populations that we're working with. And the reason why that's important is because that explains the kind of limitations that sometimes you may see your patrons or your clients facing. So I'm going to start with the definition of refugee with a big R. And that is a refugee that has arrived in the U.S. through the U.S. Resettlement Program, which are funded by ORR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and PRM, the Program for Refugee Management. These refugees are eligible for state and federal benefits, and some of the state benefits vary state by state, but for the most part, they're blanket across the board. It provides protections to refugees, which means they can be repatriated to the country that they're fleeing from. And it's a direct path to U.S. citizenship after following through the whole process of going from refugee to a lawful permanent resident or a green card holder onto citizenship. These refugees are assisted by resettlement agencies, which are recognized by the U.S. government. IRC is one of them. And these refugees, again, have a very clear-cut path from arrival until citizenship. And the ultimate goal, of course, is to get them to the fully stable situation of being a U.S. citizen. Then we have our refugees with a little r, and I'm making this clear distinction because it does make a difference on how these populations are impacted upon arrival and how they may be impacted when you meet them at your libraries. So refugee with a little r is a refugee that arrived in the U.S. through other Department of Homeland Security or State Department programs. Refugees in this category include evacuated refugees and humanitarian parolees. So Afghans and Ukrainians are part of this population. Some of our Haitian immigrants as well, and then also some Venezuelan immigrants fall into these categories. They do not have, unfortunately, the same access or assistance for benefits, nor all the protections to stay here in the US necessarily. It's a process by which some of these populations may be eligible to stay in the US, but others may actually just be here on what we call temporary protected status or another or humanitarian parole, which is not a permanent program to remain in the US. They can be assisted by resettlement agencies, but also by other community-based organizations in that initial transition process. And the third definition I want to talk about is an asylees or asylum seekers, which are populations that most of you might be familiar with. It is the populations that we've been seeing coming through the southern border. They're going to be asylum seekers, so they're not necessarily asylees yet. But an asylee is someone who presented themselves at a border and have claimed or requested asylum. It can be someone who arrived with a visa or without a visa and presented themselves at an inspection point. So again, these can be at the land borders. It can be at an airport technically or a seaport. So as long as the person has presented themselves and they have requested asylum or want to claim asylum, they're considered at that point asylum seekers. And once they've gone through the whole rigmarole, the whole process of applying for asylum, being vetted by the US government, probably going to court in some instances, once that asylum is granted, then they are warranted the same access to benefits and protections as a refugee. So I wanted to set these three definitions out because it does impact how we see those arrivals. So this is a snapshot. This is directly from the Department of State, from the Population for Refugees and Migration. And this is as of November 2023. So this is as of a couple of weeks ago. And I put for context how from fiscal year 2019 through what's so far arrived in 2024. And you can see it's broken down by region. So in 2019, 30,000 refugees were admitted into the US. In 2020, 11,814. 2021, 11,411. So not that big of a difference. In 2022, refugee arrivals picked up to 25,400. 2023 was by far, in the last, as you can see, 4 years, the biggest jump to 60,014 refugees. And now in 2024, so far, the United States has resettled 14,830 refugees. Out of those 14,000, and this is the population that I know we are all interested about right now, is our Latin American and Caribbean refugees. Out of those 14,000, 2,060 are from Latin America. So it's proportionally one of the largest populations, as you can tell. It's a top three, but it's still not the biggest population. These are, again, Latinos and Hispanics coming through the refugee admissions program. So they're coming here as refugees already. They've been vetted by the United Nations Refugee Council, and then they've been vetted by the U.S. government to be admitted into the U.S. And then I know we have some of the other fellow speakers are from Florida and New York, and the snapshots are too big, so I couldn't put them here. But I wanted to share California, which is where Maddie and I are based out of. And as you can tell, California so far has resettled a grand total of 997 refugees in our state. Out of those 997 refugees, we've had 37 refugees from El Salvador, 49 refugees from Guatemala, 8 from Haiti, 1 from Honduras, 2 from Jamaica, 20 from Nicaragua, and 12 from Venezuela. And again, these are refugees that have come strictly through the U.S. refugee admission program. Now, you can see other populations in there as well, but it is key to point out that in order to be granted refugee status, it's an incredibly onerous and long-winded process for anybody to be able to get that classification and to come to the US. So that's why you also don't see incredibly high numbers from those locations. And there's also a quota that's established by the US federal government of how many refugees from each geographic location will be admitted during that fiscal year. And then I want to show you the contrast of how the data is presented on nationwide encounters for US Border Patrol. So this is all our migrants at the southern border, and actually at all our borders. They call the Southwest Land Border and Northern Land Border encounters by fiscal year. And these are migrants who have presented themselves at the border, have been apprehended either through Title VIII apprehensions, through field operation officers. So these are immigrants who are detained at the border or crossing at some point without inspection, or those who may fall under Title VIII, what they call inadmissibles. And then Title 42 expulsions, remember that program was sunsetted by the US government recently. So that's also part of those statistics. And as you can tell, as the years have gone by, 2021, the total number of apprehensions was 1,956,000. apprehended immigrants, and now we're talking about at the end of fiscal year 2023, a total of 3,201 immigrants have been detained. Most of them have been single adults that are coming through the border. There are some family unity statistics, and then there's unaccompanied children as well that come through the libraries, which are probably a lot of the patrons that you also serve in your branches are some of our unaccompanied children and single minors that are coming in with or without a guardian and are being reunited with those families. So what does all this have to do with library work? So why are all these statistics important? Because all these populations are coming to your backyard. And a lot of what we focus on is let's make sure that first of all, they're settled, they're safe, they're okay. But then what happens after that initial settlement? What happens after they find either a place to live or a place for their kids to go to school or a place to work? What happens when all these elements are coming into play? How does that play into it? So when we think of integration and inclusion, we're thinking of not only the legal process and the paperwork process, but also the human aspect of it. So what needs to be done there? And it's important to consider the economic mobility and civic participation, which is where libraries come in, but also what are the immigrant voices and the futures of those immigrants that they can look at. And again, I know I'm going a little bit quick through the slides because I want to hand it over to Maddie. But it is important to remember that we're not talking about statistics and numbers when they come to our communities, but we're talking about the people who need our services, both legal and social. Oh, there we go. So in thinking of how this plays out with the library work, it is about providing the inclusive part, which is language access, tapping into forms of expression. A lot of our clients have worked with librarians across Los Angeles Public Library where there's arts projects or ways to tell their story or connect with people who speak their own language. But then you also have the civic participation and the welcoming community pieces, which are really huge as part of the immigrants' integration to the fabric of their community. Some of them have legal pathways to remain here in the United States and become U.S. citizens. So that's part of that civic participation. That's part of the work that we do with the library most proactively right now by providing legal services, but also creating welcoming communities where immigrants know that a library is a safe place to go. It's a place in their community that understands them and that can give them. I always say it's kind of like it opens up the gates to a whole new world that they might have not known was out there of what a library can do for them in terms of services and support. And this is, again, a very clear model of how we do things in Los Angeles. We have other IRC offices across the US who have different models of working in this space of inclusion and integration. So one of the lessons learned, one of the life circles learned, I'll hand it over to Maddie in a minute, is that when we think of how the library plays into the role of working with these statistics that I shared and all these immigrants, is that safety is more than just telling them, welcome to the US. Safety is about showing them that the library is a place they can get trusted information to access what they need to know about paying bills, about learning how to manage their finances, about what their kids can benefit from in the library in terms of tutoring and learning a language. It's about their financial health. And it's not as, well, you had money in your home country, money's the same in the US, but the systems are different. So what is that financial health and how can we tackle it early through library systems? And it's that inclusion integration can be a bespoke program, and it doesn't have to be a cookie cutter model program that we necessarily all walk into. And it's about being responsive, which means we're ready for it. And again, Maddie will talk a little bit more from the library side, but the library, Los Angeles Public Library and IRC have worked so closely, especially over the last couple of years with a lot of the surges that have happened, where we've been able to be responsive as partner organizations, and which means we've been able to be ready to assist and serve those immigrants in our communities that need it. And a lot of them who are coming to the library right now have been Hispanic Latino immigrants coming from the southern border through San Diego up to LA. And when we're trying to find ways of connecting them first locally to the community, but then find ways to put them on a more stable pathway to that. It's important to know for us, inclusion integration is centered on trauma-informed care. We're aware of the experiences, both good and bad, that a lot of them have had coming to the US. And we want to make sure that in serving them, we are making sure that the selves that they are, who they are individually, are not lost, and that we're not cookie cutter or just generalizing their needs or their responses because we think they're from the same group. And at the end, it reduces the barriers to not being able to achieve what they think they can achieve, but making sure that they can achieve what they set out to do, which is find a stable place to build their families and their new homes. So with that, I want to hand it over to Maddie so she can talk about a little bit more of how we do things from a library perspective.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Very, very important information and details. And welcome, Madeline Edelfonso now from Los Angeles Public Library.
Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing because it was sharing the wrong thing. Hopefully. It's not sharing what you guys are. Is that better?
There it is, yes.
Okay, let me just get it to the presenter view. Oh, good gravy. Okay. Always fun to do this, even after several years. Greetings, everyone. My name is Madeline Ildefonso, and I'm a managing librarian at the Los Angeles Public Library in the Office of Civics and Community Services. So our office manages the Immigration Services Program at LAPL, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the work we do just broadly. Jonathan touched on so many important topics, and I will touch on them a little more specifically, and I'll go really fast because it is needed. All right, so I wanted to just briefly share that there are about 5 elements that we think about in terms of program design, even though that's like a little bullet here for one of the elements, just for like an overall program, you want to make these considerations. And I just want to move this so I can see it more clearly. All right. So basically, the elements that we are always talking about are, sorry, my Zoom just disappeared. Little technical issues. Anyway, so you basically want to train staff not too deeply about immigration processes. So you want to create awareness, but you don't want to create a space where people feel that they need to be responsible and understand immigration processes explicitly. That should be done only by legal service providers. So it's best to keep staff informed about the resources that are available in the community and where staff can help make referrals. If you have an office like mine in your library system that's dedicated to create services and bring needed resources to support immigrants, that's wonderful. If you don't, great opportunity to set up a committee. But your program design should center evaluation of available resources, evaluation of the community, and strategize what need your programs and services could be responsive to. And you want to make sure those are done consistently. In terms of language access and marketing, basically to the best of your abilities to make sure your library is providing information in multiple languages, obviously here with a focus on Spanish speakers, but in serving non-English speaking populations, you may encounter literacy barriers and Indigenous language speakers. And so you want to make sure you create partnerships and the right supports to ensure that information is available, and you include graphic representation of information. The collections can be all kinds of library resources, and I'm using it really broadly here to include things like databases, online trainings, partnerships in politics. So even though a lot of people still like to say that libraries are not political, we very much are political. And the politics of where you are may impact how you are able to deliver services. And so you want to make sure that you are probably walking in step with the tone of the area that you live in and provide services in. But that doesn't mean if you are a library in a very conservative place that you can't provide services. Because you most certainly can. There are a lot of affirmative processes, and we say affirmative, even for us at Los Angeles Public Library and providing immigration services, these are done in affirmative spaces. So we're not doing deportation defense from our offices here at the library. So people with their green cards, LPRs, people who have humanitarian visas, people who are refugees, people who are seeking asylum, these are people that you can make a case to provide support for. And we encourage that. But you have to be the best judge of your own communities and circumstances and how you want to go about doing that. So one thing you really want to know is who is in your community to serve. So how they got there, where they're from, when did they arrive? And these aren't things that you may want to ask explicitly to people. Sometimes I've heard that a way to ask is to ask about the languages that they speak versus a where are you from conversation. People can feel really vulnerable. So if you're able to communicate with people, asking about the language needs that they have, that's really important in establishing the kinds of needs that they may have. But you really want to have a solid handle on where people are coming from, the languages that they are speaking, and what their priority needs are. And really, for the programs that you develop, it's really about what story you're trying to tell. So what is the capacity of your institution in terms of the story you're trying to tell as an institution? Like, where can you establish priorities, and what can be the scope of work and how you deliver services? And how can you support access? And so and then the key skills that I wanted to reflect on is the flexibility of your institution and commitment to a process, because you may not solve the problem you're trying to solve in your first go. Patience and developing a plan and then maybe a backup plan. And you really want to look at where you might be able to get funding to support work, which I know is very challenging for a lot of institutions. So that's where you really want to look at partnerships and aligning with community-based organizations that match the mission of the library. So that's where you want to kind of step back before you reach out to community partners and figure out what it is that the library is able to do for people and what it is that they really need. So in Los Angeles, we have the work that we do with IRC as part of our New Americans initiative, which we launched in 2018. As part of this work, we have 7 New American centers, and we also do, and New Americans work is legal service work. So we do this in buildings, we do this in public locations, in addition to the centers. We have 74 New Americans welcome stations, and those are formerly our citizenship corners. So you can order information from USCIS, you can display it in your library. You don't have to have a big piece of furniture that's intentional like we do. You can find a shelf, and we support naturalization and immigration services. So the main growth of our program is that we've been able to year after year increase the access to the types of services we provide. And we also are distributing more information to people about the resources that are available to them. We place a high priority in customer service, and that is something that any library can do with recent arrivals. So when you have an understanding of the landscape, when you have an understanding of who in your community can provide supportive services, whether or not they happen in the library, you can provide excellent customer service and helping to answer those questions. We have a New Americans message line. We can receive upward of 500 to 600 calls a month. It is not a live line. The calls are answered by employees of the library, but it's created a very impactful referral system, and also a way for people to feel supported when they feel like they don't understand how to navigate a computer, or they really just want to speak to somebody in language. So our message line has access for 5 languages. But I think that's a really great resource to have for any system. We also support entrepreneurship through our New Americans program. So we have a Be a Successful Street Vendor program. I'll just click on it really briefly, but that's an important aspect of, in addition to other resources that people need, is just being their own business owner. It's a super important skill that people know how to bring what they did somewhere else to here. And maybe it isn't the exact thing, but learning how they can do that here. And you don't have to be a US citizen to operate a business in the United States. And so resources that are specific to your community are really helpful for immigrants in terms of how they can start and sustain their own businesses. In terms of other supportive programming that I've referenced here, programming about housing, learning how to drive, computer classes, creating workshops with partners to help people follow up on those legal documents, healthcare support, linking with the local Department of Education, learning about citizenship classes. If you're not able to host those classes, those are really important. And so this is an example of our webpage. So I'm just showing the English version here, but you can click on the en Espanol and you can see the same information in Spanish. This is just an example of how people can schedule an appointment. That's our message line that you can see right here. This is our Be a Successful Street Vendor program. So you can see that we give, and what I like so much about this, what's very useful is we have recorded information. So if you click on the tabs like overview and permits, this is all recorded slideshows. So for people who lack literacy and fluency in Spanish or in English, the information can be listened to, which can be really valuable and give people a sense of agency in a process where they feel like they don't have much control. And the CELED is also, some libraries use CELED. We are one of them. CELED is mobile microlearning. So it's a service that we do pay for, but you get the code to access it free via the library. And it's a really great tool. These are lessons in Spanish and in English, but low-level literacy Spanish. And it's really to just keep the language simple, to make sure that we're creating a place of understanding and a pace that people can follow when maybe they're experiencing a lot of stress or just want to, not have to rush through something to get the understanding. So the information in the CELED pathways, it's language learning. It's also about, what are taxes, street safety. So really impactful program. Sorry. So for recent arrivals, again, referring back to understanding the basic needs, population demographics, and really just do a landscape survey in your own community to know the existing networks and services that can be offered. I've gotten questions about librarians helping with asylum paperwork, and really, an asylee, somebody who's asking for asylum, they do that here. The government changes where and when they can ask for it. So these are really legal processes that can put people into jeopardy if they're given wrong information. So, or they file paperwork in the wrong time. So asylum is a time-centered process, and things do need to be done in a timely manner. But I think that what's important is for library people to know where they can refer people for assistance for that, or host workshops to support people. Know Your Rights is always really valuable. A lot of nonprofits can do Know Your Rights workshops. We provide cards in 19 languages. And then I've talked about those other things, so zipping through. So potential ideas for recent arrivals. And you can see, to provide legal workshops in conjunction with computer literacy classes, helping seekers create needed email addresses for consistent communication, potentially setting up research clinics in conjunction with legal workshop providers. So there are things that librarians may help with that aren't necessarily legal, but they can provide supportive services to legal service providers. And even if it's just like printing and, space, those are really valuable resources. And just additional library resources and support that we provide. So you can see here, long list of Spanish language resources. And this is just a list of legal resources that people can refer to. So the Immigration Advocates Network, that's where you can find legal service providers. Also, IMMI is a good resource to use, as well as the Executive Office for Immigration Review from the U.S. Department of Justice. There's a list there of pro bono legal service providers. So there are lots of different ways that you can intersect with legal service providers in order to host workshops and things that will be legal things that will be helpful for people. But like I said, there are a lot of non-legal things that you can do and that we've been doing at the library for some time in Los Angeles. And I've shared a lot of that in that slideshow. I hope it was helpful. Sorry about the rush. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Great information. And for everyone interested, yes, the presentation will be recorded and shared on the Reforma list and also on Reforma social media. And so that way people can share with other colleagues, Reforma members, everyone. And now I am happy to welcome Freda Mosquera from Broward County Libraries Division. Freda.
Thank you so much, Loida. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's session. My name is Freda Mosquera, and I am the Community Library Manager at Broward County Lauderdale Lakes Library. I'd like to share my screen, so give me just 1 second here to see if... Perfect, thank you. Thank you very much. Today's session, I will be talking about Broward County Library services to recently arrived Latino immigrants. And first, I'd like to share with you Broward County Library mission to provide convenient access to a full range of innovative and cost-effective services that satisfy the changing needs of the people of Broward County for information, education, and recreation. South Florida's geographic location makes it popular destination for Caribbean and Latin American immigrants. The Hispanic origin groups more predominant in Broward County are Cuban, Puerto Rican, and Colombian. They represent 30% of the Broward County population. In general, we have a very diverse Hispanic population from Central America and from South America. But something that is very, very particular about the Broward County population, Hispanic population, is that compared to the nation, state, and other South Florida counties, the Hispanic population of Broward County has the highest levels of post-high school education, and at the same time, the lowest levels of population with less than a high school education. Today, to provide you with the information about the resources and strategies that we followed at Broward County Library, I'd like to share with you the framework that I'm using to evaluate our organization, and then I will recommend you to use it as a framework as well. It's the IFLA UNESCO Multicultural Library Manifesto. I can tell that BCL serves all members of the community without discrimination based on cultural and linguistic heritage. BCL provides information in appropriate languages and scripts. BCL gives access to a broad range of materials and services reflecting all communities and needs. BCL employs staff to reflect the diversity of the community, who are trained to work with and serve diverse communities. And in terms of the actions that are recommended by the IFLA UNESCO Multicultural Library Manifesto, I can tell that BCL develops culturally diverse and multilingual collections and services, including digital and multimedia resources. BCL includes programs supporting user education, information, literacy skills, newcomer resources, cultural heritage, and cross-cultural as integral part of the services. BCL provides access to library resources in appropriate languages through information, organization, and access systems. And BCL develops marketing and outreach materials in appropriate media and language to attract different groups to the library. Broward County Library understands the language needs of Spanish speakers and offers information in Spanish about its services so that first visitors will feel welcome. The information and reference services in Spanish is the most valuable service that we can offer to the new Latino immigrants. When they come to the library, they come sometimes just to print a document, to access information in the websites, or just to ask for information. So it's extremely important to be able to provide the information and reference services to the customers in Spanish. With the years, the number of staff members that speak Spanish in Broward County Library has increased. And we can tell that at most libraries, we have staff members that speak Spanish. Another aspect that is extremely important is that the library card application is available, and it has been available for years in both languages, in English and in Spanish. We have um, a new opportunity for the customers, and is that they can have a digital library card. This digital library card give full access to the customers, to computers, to databases, and to the online collection. If the person doesn't have all the documents required to have a full library card, they can access all the resources through the digital card, and they can come to the library and use the internet for free and use all these services that we can provide online with this digital card. The collection offers materials in Spanish. We have them through the print and digital collection, but we also have new items in our collection for technology. We have laptops, we have tablets and hotspots, and we are offering some of them as well in Spanish. um, Something that is extremely valuable for the new immigrants that come to the library is that we have the instruction, the language instruction available not only on compact discs and DVDs, but we provide Rosetta Stone and Brain Fuse free at the library, and it could be available just with the digital card. So customers can come to the library and learn English at the library with these two free databases. We offer several programs for the Latino community. In the past, many programs were dedicated just to newcomers, but with the years, these programs has been integrated into the regular programming of Broward County Library. We have a department, the Learning Services Department, that coordinates the literacy programs for adults for all Broward County libraries. Through this department, we have the English Cafe, we have computer classes, and we have the citizenship classes that are extremely popular. We offer these programs at all Broward County branches. We also have the literacy programs for children, story times in Spanish, bilingual story times. We offer financial classes, employability resources, resume help. And in addition to the regular programming, we have special events and series that we offer system-wide. One that I wanted to highlight today is the English for Families, Discovering Your Way series, because new immigrants face a lot of challenges when helping their children at a school. They could be educated in their countries of origin. They could have an education. However, they don't know the Broward County school system, and they don't know how to help their children. The program English for Families help these families to understand how the system works. Um, the classes are offered by a teacher in the library in a room, and the families come on a weekly basis with their children, and they learned everything, math, spelling, but they understand the culture, how this system works, and how they can help their children to succeed at a school. Broward County Library also have special celebrations that are offered at all Broward County branches. We have the Dia celebration, the Children's Day, Book Day celebration, and we have a special events. Some of them, for example, are lit in January. This year, our lead was dedicated to Colombia, and we have more than 2,000 participants attending the event. We also have, and we put a lot of emphasis in the celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. These programs are celebrated at all Broward County libraries, and they are celebrating system-wide. The library offers all these programs for free to all customers and make them to feel welcome, to the library. At the Lauderdale Lakes Library that I manage, we are serving mainly African Caribbean and African American customers. However, the Lauderdale Lakes Library is located in the central area of Broward County, and we are very close to the Florida Department of Children and Families at a walking distance, and very close to the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. We are very near to both offices. Customers can walk to the library, and they come to the library on a daily basis. On some occasions, when we have waves of new immigrants that have arrived to South Florida, when the Florida Department of Children and Families offices in Miami are overwhelmed with the number of customers, they are referred to Broward County, and we serve them. They come here to the library. We help them with the applications. We have copies of the applications for them, and we provide printing services. We help them to print the I-94. So this particular library, where I am the community library manager, we not only help our community and the customers that come on a regular basis and that they live or attend a school in the city of Lauderdale Lakes, but all those new immigrants that arrive to Broward County and come to these offices in search of help. Immigrants in Broward County, as the rest of the immigrants in the United States, are looking for public assistance, public education, public health, financial support, housing, and we provide information on all those topics here at the library. We have Broward County Library has a very successful partnership with Hispanic Unity of Florida. Hispanic Unity is an organization that is dedicated to empower Latinos to become civic and socially engaged and to become citizens. It's an extremely important organization in Broward County, and we have a partnership with Hispanic Unity of Florida, and through them we offer the citizenship classes at different Broward County Library branches. And with this being said, I wanted to end my presentation just to recommending again to you to review the IFLA UNESCO Multicultural Manifesto, because it will serve you as a guide to how you are doing, what can you do more, how can you improve the services that you are providing to the Latinos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Freda. And it's very interesting to sort of like compare now services from Los Angeles Public Library, Florida, where you are in Broward, and now we're going to Queens Public Library all the way up in the Northeast. And I hope, and I see on the chat that these presentations are very of benefit, I want to say, to attendees. So thank you, everyone. And welcome, Fred Gitner from Queens Public Library.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Loida and to Reforma for inviting me to join you today. So I'll give a brief overview of the current landscape in New York City. I'm sure you've been reading in the news the great number of recent arrivals. And also I'll share what Queens Public Library has been doing to offer assistance to newly arrived migrants and asylum seekers. Next, please. Thanks. So as you can see, the majority of arrivals are Spanish-speaking immigrant groups in New York, with the #1 country being Venezuela, and then Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. But we're seeing certainly other countries as well. Perhaps, as was mentioned, people aren't coming unnecessarily under the same circumstances. There are different programs for different countries. So Haiti, many people we're seeing are under the temporary protected status, for example. But we're definitely seeing an increase in arrivals from Africa, Mauritania, Mali, and Guinea, and then other countries as well. And it's just amazing that all of these various countries are coming through the southern border. Trying to just to think of that you're going from Africa to, let's say, Nicaragua, and then to New York. So someone else mentioned of the difficult journeys that people are taking, and to keep those in mind when you're working with different customers. So Venezuela, some can integrate into already existing communities. For example, in New York, there's a large Colombian, Ecuadorian, Peruvian community, and also some Central American. But Venezuela is quite new and is just building a support network. Recently, the federal government did grant temporary protected status and work authorizations to Venezuelans. So there's a great need for legal services there. and then TPS has been extended for El Salvador and Nicaragua. But as you can see from the statistics, recent statistics, right now the city is serving 65,700 people seeking asylum, and more than over 136,500 have come through since the spring of 22, and we have more than 210 sites offering a shelter. In Queens, shelters have seen more than 41,000 migrants pass through. And one of the reasons for this and these large numbers in New York City, because of a lawsuit quite a number of years ago, there is a unique right to a shelter bed. So that's, again, why we're seeing so many people. Next, please. And this is just to show you that it's very different, perhaps, than previous immigrations. As you see here, that 77% of the arrivals in most recent, this happens to be the most recent month, October, were families with children. So that's very different. In the past, many times it was single male adults who were arriving. There still are, but really this is a different type of migration. So that affects, obviously, it was talked about school enrollment and an increased opportunity for libraries to reach out, to work with families. Next, please. So one thing that we did extensively at QPL was staff trainings. We've had, over the past year, we've had 3 different staff trainings. We have Tuesday mornings when most libraries are closed. We devote to staff trainings that started actually during the pandemic for virtual trainings. And we usually get at least 100 to 150 staff members every Tuesday. Well, now it's not every Tuesday morning, but the last Tuesday of every month are staff trainings on specific topics. So out of this staff training, we started an asylum seekers working group that our New Americans program is coordinating, with members from branches that are directly serving these populations, and also our adult learning centers, where we're seeing the largest influx of migrants. We also have worked with marketing and volunteer services, got involved to create kits with Spanish language information about the library, and also in the wintertime, including a pair of gloves to distribute to branches that are near shelters. Our communications department added a monthly migrant support update that New Americans program and the committee helped to put together for the staff newsletter. And New Americans program created a one-page staff resources for serving migrants that was sent out and made available to all branches, with links to, for example, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs resource page. They've done a special page on asylum seekers. The Advocates for Children of New York information on enrolling children in school, a list of referral organizations for legal assistance, hotlines for emotional and mental health support, a list of food pantries and soup kitchens, and a link to an online referral guide to social services. So this is very helpful when you're in a branch and you can quickly get the links to these various services when you have a customer in front of you. So this way, we try to reinforce the lessons learned, the best practices, and teaching staff how to stay up to date. Next, please. So this is what we've seen, services in high demand. As you know, when people come, and this was mentioned earlier, people have immediate needs, food, clothing, shelter, transportation. They have language needs, learning English or improving your English, very important for getting around and getting ahead in what you want to do. So at the library here, we have formal English classes, we have volunteer-led conversation groups, We have online resources such as Transparent Language Online or Rocket Languages for learning English. And there are some children's programs, not formal classes, but again, through online services, because children are learning in school, but some want to supplement what they're learning. Of course, immigration legal services is very important. And we don't have the formal system that Los Angeles does, but we do partner with legal service or providers, and we provide monthly clinics where people can make an appointment with the provider, but it's held at the library where they can get information and referrals. But as you see, not all needs, can best be served by the library. Some immediate needs may better be served by referrals to local community-based organizations. In the beginning, of course, we had talked about food and clothing, and is the library the place for that? And we decided really that was not something that we could do best. We could do information, we could do referrals, we could do a place, as was mentioned, for legal services, but perhaps we weren't the best one to be handing out clothing to people. And work, of course, again, depending on the status, the visa, the program that you come through, there are different possibilities. We offer some English classes with professional, with training, such as English for home health aide, English for hotel worker, those kinds of things. We also refer people who have professional training and foreign degrees to places, organizations that can help them specifically or can review credentials. And we do have trainings on workers' rights and workforce training, etc. Next, please. Now, in fact, with the Venezuelan community, because partnerships are so important, we have actually a meeting set up for next month with a local Venezuelan organization to discuss what are the best ways to cooperate to serve the community. Because really, it's as was mentioned, each country, each community could have different needs, and we really want to talk to people who are on the ground who can let us know what are the best ways, and we partner with them to then present programs where they can present the various services that are, or the needs, and also someone from the library can speak about what services can the family can get at the library. This ID NYC is a driving force for people coming to our central library. It's a municipal ID that's been much in demand because people need some sort of accepted identification. So we're one of the only two issuing sites in Queens right now. And since when the number of people demanding this service started lining up at 5 o'clock in the morning outside the library to get in line to get in, even though technically it's by appointment, but they do see, I think it's about 50 to 75 people a day without an appointment. But they came, when they came, I guess it was we're in the spring, they didn't have any Spanish speakers initially, which was not, this is because it's run by the Human Resource Administration, and they just had the people they had. So we started a volunteer program among staff, a volunteer interpretation program among staff in the Central Library. Not only public service staff, but others volunteered, bilingual staff, to take shifts to help explain the application in Spanish, explain the application process, the form, but not to help people fill out the form. Again, it's not our place to tell people what to do. They have to have their own information, but just explaining them, making them feel more comfortable in filling out the application. Next, please. So the New Americans program, Our goal is to celebrate Queens residents' cultures and help newcomers understand life in the United States. That's a very simplified version of it. But some of our responses, one thing that we did do, and it just would happen, the timing was right, is we worked for quite a long time. Actually, it was supposed to happen before the pandemic, but it got delayed, was introducing the language line service for interpretation via an 800 number. And now it's available at all QPL locations. And of course, the top language in demand is Spanish, but we have, especially with new arrivals, we're seeing requests for interpretation in African languages such as Wolof and Fulani, in addition to other. But it really mirrors the languages that, you know, are of people and the countries people are coming from. But it's people, you know, our branch staff has told us that really this has been, you know, even though sometimes there is a wait for the more, I'd say, exotic languages, lesser requested languages, it's really a lifesaver when you have someone in front of you and they really are trying to communicate. Next, please. So we did translate our brochures into Spanish to distribute at community events organized for immigrants, for example, by the New York Immigration Coalition, the Qualitas of Life Foundation, and the Queensborough President's Office. So we go and set up tables and talk directly to community members. Next, please. So just some examples of some of the workshops. Here's a Know Your Rights workshop for housing, but we've also done them for wage theft, for interacting with ICE. And we do have the monthly immigration legal assistance clinics, New York Legal Assistance Group, the International Rescue Committee, the Gay Men's Health Crisis. All of that is available by appointment. Next, please. We've also done some special targeted workshops with legal service providers because, again, the really recent arrivals might have different needs than someone who's been here for 5 or 10 years. So we started working with, particularly with Spanish-speaking staff of the New York Legal Assistance Group for these workshops. And we always do bilingual flyers. This happens to be showing the English side, but the flyers are bilingual. Next, please. We added some Spanish computer classes, again, teaching very basic practical skills, how to send emails, scanning, uploading and downloading documents, things that newcomers need to get their life in order, actually. I attended one of them, and again, the instructor was explaining putting documents in the cloud, and there they would all be there all together. You wouldn't have to be looking for them when you're nervous and need to present them. So it was really very practical information to store, access, and share documents safely. Next, please. Now, we also partnered with an organization called Church World Service, which is a refugee resettlement agency, trying to create, in a neighborhood that was seeing a lot of newcomers, a dialogue to create better understanding and empathy for new arrivals. In this case, it was the stories of unaccompanied children who have been, placed with, obviously, with family members or others that after they arrive, but it was to make people more aware of the people's situations. Next, please. Now, not to forget the cultural aspects of things, we enhanced our cultural programming related to Latinx culture. This was a celebration at a lot of things we've been doing at our Langston Hughes Library, because they have a very nice auditorium and space, and it's a very, I would say, one of the most Spanish-speaking areas in Queens now. Next, please. And again, because there were shelters nearby, we added craft workshops for children, because sometimes the parents are very busy doing things that need to be done for everyday life, and the children after school or on Saturday, looking for activities. It's not very pleasant staying in some of these shelters, as you can imagine. There's not much space. so that we started some of these various workshops. There's one more on the next slide. This has been very popular. As you can see, again, the bilingual flyers, but activities for holidays, and again, in areas that are near shelters. Next, please. So this is just some of the responses. Besides the New Americans program, some of the things that other divisions of the library have been doing are adult learning, tabling very close to the IDNYC where people are waiting and standing around. They set up a table explaining they were using this NGen app for studying English on the phone, explaining how to do that. Our adult learning centers offer case management with social workers, and classes as well. We added in ESOL classes for low literacy students, particularly coming from Africa. And then they created one of our centers created a Navigate NYC course, which of course is very practical. Collection development expanded the Spanish and bilingual collections, and we've been promoting, as was mentioned, Brain Fuse, which is live homework help that can be given in English or in Spanish every day from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. So our outreach community engagement team takes the Mobile Library out to shelters where families are housed. And we were able to purchase, with grant funding, some picture books in Spanish that we could donate to families for the kids while they're waiting in line at IDNYC or at other events. More recently, we've been getting a lot of requests from parent coordinators at schools that have seen an influx of English language learner students for presentations in Spanish about the library services. So again, we've been cooperating with other departments in the library and the branches to do that. Next, please. Recently, we were approached by USCIS to offer space for in-person consultations and presentations in English and Spanish. This came after the Venezuelan work authorization, so that they could get up-to-date information, also explaining asylum and providing proper forms, and also for fee waivers, because all of these services, as you know, cost money which people may not have, and given their situation. We have a job and business academy assisting with resumes and interviewing. We partner with Workforce One, which is now offering special sessions for asylum seekers who do have work authorization. And then, of course, they were doing in Broward County, promoting the language learning databases that do have ESOL, modifying our library card policies. For example, to get a library card, you need a document with your picture, with your name. Besides, there is also the online card, as others have had. But if you do want the regular card, so we modified the policy because many people's documents were taken away at the border, but they have photocopies. So we modified the policy that photocopies were acceptable, and also letters from the shelters where they were living, saying that they lived there, et cetera, used for an address. So what we're really trying to do really is to make sure that the library is seen as a trusted, safe space. In fact, we have some people who, when they're looking for ESOL classes and the library locations are full, even though we provide a referral list to agencies outside the library, they said they'd rather wait another semester and attend a class in the library. So that just shows you how much people value the welcome, the smile, the attitude that people can get in a public library setting. Next, please. I'm almost done. Yeah, so again, integration was mentioned, but trying to integrate newcomers into already existing programs and services across different age groups for mutual learning and sharing. As I said, we're working with many other units throughout our department and across the library to make the library as welcoming as possible to our newest arrivals, who really, our chief librarian just calls them our newest neighbors. And next. I just want to say muchas gracias, thank you. And you can contact me at my email address. And thank you for the opportunity of speaking.
Thank you so much, Fred. Definitely a different perspective, and it's also valuable, the three different library systems represented here, and of course, the information from the organization at the beginning. And now we have our last speaker, and it's great that many people have stayed with us. This webinar will be recorded and the recording will be shared. But now we're going to welcome Keith Miller, Executive Director, the Caliph, and he's going to talk more about that. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you. And I know it's getting late. I'm not coming from a library, but I do have a library card.
Great.
And actually visit. So we're located in the Los Angeles area in the downtown part of the city, very close to the Central Library. So we often have a lot of our consumers and clients go on over there. But we are an independent living center. We are one of 28. I'm not going to share slides because I know we're short on time. So I'll just kind of go through what our services are. But I will send the slide presentations over so people can see them. So we're one of 28 independent living centers located in Los Angeles. And our vision really is, in the spirit of unity, collaboration, and respect for the human dignity and civil rights of all people, CalLife envisions a cultural, diverse, independent living center designed to empower the disability community. So with that being said, we are a disability organization, but we work with cross disabilities. All our services here are absolutely free. So as I go down the list of what we do here, we don't care what the legal status is of someone. We don't ask. It's not something that we need to know. It only becomes an important factor in what we do if someone's applying for a benefit or may need some help with assisted living of some type, or affordable or accessible living. Then we have to go through government forms, and that takes a little bit more and a little bit more information. But in regards to legal status, it doesn't matter to us. Our funding doesn't require that. Everything we do here is free. We're funded through the federal government, the state and local entities to do our services. And I'll go through it rather quickly. So we have several services here that we do. We do peer counseling and independent living services here. And when I talk about peer counseling, through the mandate of the federal government, that in order to receive funding through the government, 51% of the people that work here must be people with disabilities themselves. So we try very hard to hire people with different backgrounds and different skill sets and different languages to cross over to make sure that the language barriers are addressed. So, we border a lot with the Korean community. We work very closely with East LA, Los Angeles. So our staff are multicultural in regards to languages that they speak. And that's very important for who we hire. So we address the needs of the communities that surround our center. So peer counseling is one-to-one. We work with people who have disabilities and who need assistance. Maybe they acquired a disability recently, and now they're talking to someone else who has a disability. Again, I go back to the 51 percentile of who we hire here so that we could address their needs. We do housing advocacy. This may impact somebody who has a forced eviction due to, maybe it was COVID, maybe they can't pay the rent. We try really hard to work with them as an advocate. We're not a legal entity, we're an advocacy organization. And so we do advocacy work, and that might be helping someone to address, maybe there's a language barrier of some nature. And so to really try to work with that landlord to keep that person housed and keep them where they need to be. Could also be working with homeless individuals. We have a large homeless population. We're very close to the Skid Row area in downtown Los Angeles. So we see a lot of diversity here in people who come and live over here. So we really try to address the needs. So, it could be helping someone find a shelter, helping someone find bridge housing. Like I said, keep someone in their apartment or their home. Then we do benefits assistance. We help someone with getting Medi-Cal, Medicare, CalFresh, CalAIMS, working with HMOs and trying to provide the services they may need. That could be anything from assistive technology, and I'll get into a little bit later, but helping people who may have lost their benefits, maybe someone who's been incarcerated and who loses their Social Security or their SSI, and now they need to reapply for it. So we help people reapply. It may be first time, might be their first application. We also help with denials when someone is denied a benefit. It could be SSDI, state disability, SSI, Social Security income, and now they're appealing that, and that's what they need in order to sustain and not become homeless or live in a nursing home. Our goal is really to try to keep people out of institutions if we can, but of course it's really up to them where they want to go. But our goal is really to try to help people live independently. We do information and referral. We are very big in helping people get the resources that they need within the community. We often realize, like in Los Angeles, it's very big, the county of Los Angeles. So getting around could be kind of hard. So we really try hard to connect people to their local resources to where they live. We're cross disability. That means that we're one of the few organizations that work with anyone with any type of disability. We don't have a target population. So anyone that comes in here who needs a service, there's only two criteria. One is that you identify as a person with a disability, and two, you could benefit from our services, and that's it. There's no financial money that needs to take place in regards to receiving our services. We do assistive technology. We help very low income people with who may need a wheelchair, a walker, a rollator, a cane. Again, it's free. If someone needs a wheelchair that is broken, we prepare it at a very, very low cost. That's one thing we do ask for. Like if someone needs a battery, but if they can't afford it, then we find other means to do that. We have a very large contract for Stop the Hate, and that is to really look at hate crimes that happen in Los Angeles. As you know, the rate is pretty high right now with everything that's going on in the world. So we're contracted to look at and do intervention and prevention for people who have experienced a hate crime or to prevent a hate crime from happening. It's very big for us, right? Because we're seeing a lot of that, at least in Los Angeles. I'm sure everywhere as well. And then we have a contract with the state, working with the elder population, working in geriatrics, working with people to help them find the necessary resources for example, if someone, lost a spouse and now, they lost some income there, really try to help them try to navigate a system that perhaps they've never tried to navigate before. So like I said, all our staff, or most of our staff are people with disabilities. We have multilingual languages here that we provide. So one last thing we do provide, which is very important, is that we do what we call personal assistant. That's to keep someone in their house as well. Often people, want to stay where they are, but they want to not have to leave and move into a nursing home. So by getting them an assistant, getting them some kind of a personal assistant within their home to keep them housed is one of the big things that we do. And I could go on for more, but I know that time is limited, so I'll just kind of stop there.
Thank you so much, Keith.
You're welcome.
We had an array of amazing information from different library systems today. We had Los Angeles Public Library, we had Broward County in Florida, and then we have Queens Public Library in New York. We also had information shared by representatives from two non-governmental organizations, the International Rescue Committee in Los Angeles, and Keith, that comes from Communities Actively Living Independent and Free. I think we need another program, maybe one or two more programs on this topic. There is a big need. There are many librarians that are seeking information, and that's good because it means that there's definitely a need for our event today. we are over time, and I am going to close the event, but I want to thank each one of the speakers for their commitment to serve immigrants and the populations that we mentioned here today, for their time, the dedication to join us, and the coordination and the preparation time. Again, to the REFORMA IRC committee, REFORMA webmaster and public relations, and the REFORMA president and executive board for their support. Thank you so much to everyone. And I see that there were some questions answered on the chat. That's wonderful as well. And we will share a recording to the presentation. We'll do our best to compile these slides, and we are going to check with the webmaster if the chat can be available as well, because I see questions about that. Thank you so much, everyone. We are now close to the end of the year, so Happy New Year as well. And we'll see each other on the REFORMA list. Also, answering one of the questions on the chat, you are free to share the recording of this event with anyone, any librarian that needs it. And we just want to help and support librarians serving recent arrived immigrants. So thank you so much, everyone, and expect the link to the recording soon on the REFORMA list and on the social media.